Hey guys, how are you? How are you? How are you? Good to be in touch with you. I hope you're going to enjoy this one. This is going to be interesting. It's a reset sniper, it's a market sniper, and it's a crypto sniper trade all in one. Now I want to just tell you, first of all, I'm not qualified to give anyone advice. I'm talking to you about something I'm excited about and I intend to share with you. So let's have a little look. I've got my Hootsuite up here, and sometimes I get folk that have a chat and say, hey, I'd love to do your course, but I need some money. Give me a trade. Well, actually, we're not a trade feed business. We're in the business of transferring a trading skill. However, every now and then I share a kind of strong view that we have, and I'm going to put this one out there with you. Okay, I want to talk to you. This is a great story. It's got politics. It's got trade wars in it. It's got crypto in it. It belongs on all my channels. It's got reset in it. Yes, indeed. There's all sorts of elements that are hanging off of this. It's got other characters and commentators that are making various opinions in it. It is really interesting. So what are we talking about? What has caught my eye? Well, first of all, we've been brewing this in our community and keeping quiet about it. This is my community. I'm going to do a whole clip at the end of this, by the way, if you want to see how our whole stuff works on the addendum to this. So I won't go into too much detail here, but you'll see that up top here, I am talking about the USD Korean Won. Okay, that sounds like an FX trade, and it is. But you're also the crypto guys are going to go, never mind, I'm leaving. No, hold on. The crypto part will come in, indeed. So I spotted something on the Korean Won. I gave it to one of our Koreans to put up a setup. He's a great student and does great setups. And he's done the setups in here. And I'm going to take you into the story. So you know about the politics. You know what's happening out there, don't you? You know, in fact, that we are in a state where there is a big trade war between Donald Trump, must get keyboard to hit escape, between Donald Trump and China. And this has been getting all the news, and it's a bit of a Punch and Judy show, etc., etc. And you're thinking, it's kind of like backwards and forward stuff. What's going down? Well, I want to tell you a little bit about what's going down, and I've set aside a couple of charts to share with you. First of all, let's have a look at what most people are talking about. So I've seen some commentators before we go. This is the USD versus the CNH. You get the CNY and the CNH. One's an offshore, one's an onshore version of the Chinese currency. So automatically everyone goes to, it's America versus China. Let's have a look at the dollar versus the Chinese options. And in a way, that's not what we like to do. We like to do 360-degree analysis and look at all of them. So some folk have been printed. USD CNY price falls and rises amid current Bitcoin market is a headline. What are they saying? The points out that the USD is dropping. So market commentator is pointing out that the USD is dropping against the CNY, which is offshore version. I don't specifically agree with that, but we'll get into that a little bit now, because the CNY is not the one that's the most interesting to me. But there's a chart share with some of the opinions. Yuan is on the cheap side, meaning it should get stronger. In other words, it should come down. That is the view that's being expressed here. It should come down because it's on the very cheap side of the range. Now, as I say, generally, when things get close to their all-time highs, it's quite a fair comment to make. And as traders and commentators, we'll be right and wrong on everything. So there's nothing intended here, but this is one way, and that's the amazing thing about trading, you can have a different view. You see, is it normal times, these times, or is there something going on? And it was interesting, we were keeping this one quiet and we were working on it. It's something we're doing in the sniper circle, as I've already shown you, but I started to see little hints. It's amazing once you've looking at something specifically. I suddenly saw Real Vision post a chart of a pair I'm going to be showing you very, very soon. Then I saw a comment by Mr. Brunt here on his article that is being quoted on in You Today. And then I also got some news feed about Kyle Bass. Kyle Bass exit, long time short bet on US-China trades. So he's no longer short the yuan. Now, I think that's a pity for him, potentially, although it's obviously done well. It sounds like he's probably done well already, so well done. Everyone has a target. Someone else might take over. But I have a feeling there's going to be a little bit more. And actually, I have a feeling there's another place where it's going to get a whole bunch better. And further to that, I have a feeling the crypto game is going to come into that. And Peter's not wrong about including that, although my narrative is probably different than his. So Kyle Bass says he's very long dollars. That's kind of also a different one. Maybe it was older, May 21st. It's actually the more current than the previous article. I think on that he's right. In short, there is potentially a dollar milkshake event coming. So I don't want that to play, so you'll forgive me. I'm going to ask it to pause, and we are going to talk to you about the trade. Okay, let's start first, however, with the currency trade. So this is what we have on the CNHY. And in fact, that's a CNH. There's the CNY as well. We'll go and have a look at it. It's quite similar. So what we've actually got is we've got a test of a high point up top here. And we've got another test of a high point. And let's also remember, there was a big dip in between down here to 6.2. Now, this has kind of had what I've cheekily referred to as a range peg. It's not a peg at a specific point, but generally, they've been holding quite close to dollars. Now, we've had a period where the Chinese yuan was, in actual fact, a lot stronger to the dollar. I'm not sure we're going to get much more chart out of Oanda down here at 6. And I think we're going to see the run of the 7. And this is going to get all sorts of news headlines talking. In other words, it's going to be a key psychological level. I think there's what I would call a soft ceiling, where people continually think like central bankers as actors and dark state will sell at certain levels. We had this with the Euro-Swiss franc that we were famous for calling. And I'm wondering if we're going to have another Euro-Swiss franc type moment coming on. Crypto guys, stay patient. In the Euro-Swiss franc case, we kept seeing activity at certain levels until it was no more. And they relapsed and the damn wall burst. And my suspicion is that we will have a push through this key round number. Ever since I've been following it, it's been 6 something. And that is going to get big headlines, guys. Big headlines, if that were to happen. By the way, technically, I would not ignore this momentum. Whilst it's correct to say, look, you're at a previous high, as has been pointed out by other commentators, you cannot ignore this momentum. Also, it appears since this last dip low, the buying of dollars against the CNH has come up quite strong. Let's have a look at the CNY. Let's change that to the CNY and have a look on that. So we're still talking dollar, and this isn't the best one. This is part of just the narrative, guys. We're still talking dollar Chinese yuan, and I'll show you. You see, there's not a great difference between them. The same technical aspects exist. So I'll draw them again for you, and that is the leaning 7 over there, and almost stronger price behavior here. Now, this is fascinating for me. It truly is fascinating. Now, I'm going to say to you, what if we take a kind of Western nation that has very strong ties to China and also is very crypto aware? And we're going to discuss now the Korean won. Whenever you're looking at who might be the weakest, we've run the rack on all the Asian currencies, many of which you can't even get a proper trade on. I'm talking about, here's some sad stories, for example, introducing the super macro of the Pakistani rupee. How'd you like that? I'll give you a little free prediction in all of this as well. Change of government, IMF bailout, not far away. Dollar debt, not a good-looking currency chart, by the way. So that's what it's done since 2008-9. Since you'll see we're picking out the continuation patterns that we really like to trade. In fact, go monthly, Francis. Show them everything. 1 month, 1 month. That is our friends in Pakistan. If you're from Pakistan and you're watching this video, run for the gold, buddy, and wait for the bailouts, and all that will probably come. You can't go from 2018. You were as low in that point. Let's just draw it with a pen. You can't go from 95 to a 14 and roughly 104 and already be 50% down into halfway into 2019. Are you kidding me? We've just begun and we're down 50% in that moment. You've gone from 100 to the dollar, 105 levels through 150. And what do I suspect will happen first? It's going to get worse before it gets better, aka more parabola. You might say, but that wasn't a bad parabola. We're talking the mega parabola, and that's what's coming for Pakistan. But you say, why is he talking about Pakistan? Let's get rid of that. That was just part of our 360-degree check around of the Asian currencies of what's going on. Let's have a little look at something closer to the Chinese home, the Hong Kong dollar, before I get into the Korean won with you. Now, the lovely thing about pegs is they're kind of obvious. So here you have the USD Hong Kong dollar. And many people understand and realize that. And you'll see there's a peg at 7.75 here along the base for the history that I have in review here for you. And then you have a heavy leaning peg at 7.8. Many of you will say, well, that was heavy leaning for a long time and it held. And it's, it's been a free trade to buy along here. It's always, spiked away, etc. Well, that's what the Euro Swiss franc guys said until they walked. And this time could be a little different. So lots of pressure over here, and suddenly now we have a ceiling on the Hong Kong dollar sitting at 7.8. What won't it want to see? It would hate to see an 8 being run. So we're dancing around the main currency that I'm going to show you because we will get there. But I wanted to just show you, look at all of them. Look at all of them. This, you would always probably trade the renminbi rather than the Hong Kong dollar, but there are sometimes some differences in terms of that. What about the Switzerland of Southeast Asia? USD Singapore dollar. So far, it's all FX out of me, but don't worry. Generally, the Singapore dollar, quite smart, sensible. Look at this. This is weakening of the dollar against the USD Sing. This is a semi to very hard currency. And most people that are happy to have Singapore bank accounts are happy to hold Singapore dollars. We had our first continuation in a new trend. Boom, up she went. Little bit of chop, chop, cho. And now we're seeing some strength here. There is a case, I wouldn't say this is a hardcore trade that I'd run in, but there's clear momentum for the dollar. There's a nice little grind or a line of ascent there, and we are in an impulsive candle. Remember, that's a monthly chart. Take a look at that on a lower time frame level. Many of you forget to look at your big time frames. That is pretty powerful. It's nice rounded bottom, technically, and it's going high. Others will once again say, oh, but you're approaching a previous high. Well, you can see how far this range can move in just a matter of a year. So do not think that those highs can't fall. That high was higher than that high. It took out those lows on the way down after a small bounce. So remember, this could be a big move. It's all going to come down to how ugly is it going to get? Is this the dollar milkshake theory coming into play? Are we going to get really strong dollar? And who gets squeezed? Emerging nations with dollar-denominated debt. This should be terrible for the rand, the lira, and many others which are being heavily indebted in dollars. Okay, let's get into the main thrust about this, though. I want to start talking about the Korean won. But before we do the USD Korean won, and believe it or not, I've not even typed it in my special little list. It's the star of the show, USDKRW. Let's get him into the game. Okay, I'm going to go up a time frame, right up to that monthly chart over here. And this is kind of an indicator of Asian crises. I have some of my own scribblings in here. And some of you might be wetting your lips. I'll take them out not to confuse everybody. Every now and then, you get major mega spikes. Remember the Asian crisis, for example? Well, here you go, emerging Southeastern and combination of Russia later as well. Asian into it, Russia, all big scares. And what did you get? Falling wedge for a sustained period once calm was being restored. The kind of relaxing and revitalizing. Then you got the big scare of 2008. And guess what? It wasn't good for the smaller countries. Everyone fear reflex into the dollar and out of the won. What did you get? A super hyper pump spike move. This is a crypto chart, as far as I'm concerned. When you look at this in a monthly chart, this is a crypto chart more than an FX chart when you look at this on the monthly. And then more recently, when we had the fear in and around 14, and China was doing all the growth, you got a drift up. And this is exactly what you want. You're kind of getting very strong, pretty damn strong, to moderately strong, and then falling wedge, drift down like that into that, so that you get a breakout and into there. And that is great structure. You know what this all does? This all sets up one of these. Yep, one of these. And what tends to happen is you resolve in the direction of the trend. It is a super macro continuation. This is suggesting to me that there could indeed be at least 40% lost of the Korean won and a potential halving. And given the blow-off nature of this, you could indeed go well through to 2,500 and maybe beyond. Let's just reframe that a little bit. In short, the FX trade for the FX traders are here, but there's not very many brokers that can do it, and you don't always have the liquidity that you want. So where's our official geometric target? Up top there, in between the 2,300 and the 2,400. But given the overspike and the tendency to overreact, you will get a stampede, because this will be of a greater scale than the two previous moves before. That one, and potentially even the original one. So that means overshoot. Could you see 2.7? Could you see 2.5? Who knows? Target sitting in and around 2,350. For the gentleman that wants to know, oh, give us a trade, I'd like to be able to do your course. Here you go. But you need a broker and you need liquidity to be able to do it. And now, friends, for the patient crypto friends, it's time to talk about joining all these dots. Now, what's going to happen in a highly tech alert, smart, well-educated South Korea that is having a currency dash on it? Well, the old folk are going to go for the dollars. They're going to get the dollars wherever they can get them, assuming they have the bank, etc. Some of them will have kids. Some of them will have kids and they'll say, hey, Dad, Mum, how about good old BTC, aka Bitcoin? Yes, indeed. And that is going to be an interesting part of our next element of discussion. But before I take you back into there, what about the Chinese versus the Korean won? So before we leave all things FX and we get into the crypto realm, how, if we are comparing weaklings to weaklings, so okay, which is the one you want to be most short? Who's the weakest? Who's the strongest? We've establishing that dollar may well do the mega spike on the Korean won, yes? No, sorry, that was the Hong Kong. I never added the Korean one to my special magic list. Let's do it. To the Korean one, add him. We will have US dollar Korean one. Thank you. And let's get him back up. Oh, by the way, apologies. I've got so many things to tell you. I'm jumping around a bit. I apologize. So here's the mega structure on the Korean won. Let's finish doing this. On a smaller time frame, we love to see squeezes within squeezes. So this is a monthly chart. Most people never look at monthly charts, technical analysts. A great shame, their loss. That is a mega squeeze. If you drop down into the weekly and the daily, you start to drill in a little closer. And what you might start to see is a fractal within the fractal. So what we like to see, and this is our secondary and third high now. So we had our third high of the spikes. This was the moderate move. Let's just reorientate you. There's all the big moves that came before. Actually, that was the second. That's the first. That's the second. And now that is our third high. So let's go in there and have a look. And if you have a look with me, you will actually see, and that's even weekly's too big. Close. Let's go into our daily. One of those fingers will eventually work. Fat finger trader. You can see me. Oh, never mind. Let's move on, Francis. Okay, so here we go. That was a lovely little squeeze within a squeeze. We look for 3 impulses in our squeeze. You can learn more about that in our demo on the back of this, by the way, our desktop, as I mentioned, and our app for trading that our current clients use. That is a squeeze that is already triggered and broken very strongly. It's already surpassed its target. It may have a small amount of progress decay and pull back. Do not be an at-market trader. Some of you are going to be watching this and say, hey, I quite like the idea. Some of you will say, I hate it. I'm with all the other guys that are going in the opposite direction. Fine. Do not do anything at market. And after an impulsive move, expect some degree of pullback, except when we go into the mode of parabola, you often are let down. You don't get the full. And there is a risk that that element could be coming. So here you have the shorter time frame, structure and fractal that has occurred on the Korean won that sees us say potential 40%, possibly beyond a halvening, with even scope on a mega emotional spike to go beyond. Big problems. Guess what? you guys ain't going to be buying iPhones anymore. You're going to be buying Samsungs. It's going to be discounts time in the Samsung store. They're probably going to try to hold on to their dollar pricing model. We'll see. Anyway, that's amusing thought aside. Let's get on to comparing the Chinese currency against the Korean. Now, I'm a little disappointed there. Where's that? Come on, bring him up. Let's get him up into the weekly. That's it. Let's get that full time frame. So you can see why I would elect to be more on the Korean weakness than the one. So this is the Chinese one, a big move. Now that would have emanated out of 2008. When there's fear in the air, Korea is deemed a small nation and China is considered a bigger one relative to it. So the dollar did the best as a currency with the complete meltdown, but when you're comparing the Chinese yuan and the South Korean won, you are seeing that the move is to the bullish side, to the bigger the nation. The bigger the nation, the bigger and the more they can get away with. Since then, you've been essentially in a range trade, and you've been at the bottom of the range here and starting to move up. Not impulsively yet, there's no clear sign. These things can happen suddenly. Why? The Chinese currency is also losing ground and is melting up real quick too against the USD, but the better pattern is our friend right here, and I think it will do even less well than the Chinese yuan. So this brings cryptos into the game. Now, I respect that you guys might not be able to put this trade on, but the case I was making is cryptos are have high levels of penetration in South Korea, and in actual fact, some will go for the dollar, but if just a small segment happen to go for Bitcoin, where remember they're well served in terms of exchanges, you will have a major move in Bitcoin, including Bitcoin USD that has nothing to do with the one. Why? Because people will be getting out of a fiat in a country, a wealthy country with smart people that are tech literate are going to be getting out in some scale out of their destroying loss of value in a parabolic state, potentially, my forecast or scenario cast. We have other scenario casts. We recognize how we're proven wrong as well. We could be wrong on this. They will buy Bitcoin instead. So time to discuss Bitcoin. Okay, this brings in the second half of the trade. So some of you are saying, I can't trade Bitcoin against the Korean won. I know that, and there is some good news to that. There's still potential for all of us to get some benefit out of this. So this brings me to my merry friend. And I've actually taken the BitMEX option, which had this mega spike. So I will show you on other. This is actually not. This is a derived market, important to understand. That spike was excessive on both Kraken on that, not nearly as much on Binance and Bitfinex. So always do multi-exchange analysis before you do this. Now this is, many are calling for Bitcoin needs a much deeper sell-off. This for me is classical continuation pattern. And in fact, we're going to stick our head on the block and say 9K will be run by the normal geometry of this potentially making its target. Further to which, when you add in the potential explosion of people running, we're going to trade this for overperformance. In other words, we will not close the fullness of our size at the key target. Why? Because we are assessing that overperformance is potentially probable and has a high likelihood of occurring. In other words, we'll look at overperformance bands and all other methodologies you can learn on a course, T's and C's. Okay, but with that all to be the case, this is an exciting trade. Bitcoin dollar is an exciting trade on its own. If you can't do anything with the Korean won, do not look past the Bitcoin trade that is setting up here. And this is in the kind of ascending structure. The buy the dippers are coming. Now there's generally with buying the dips, there's three kind of events that happen. Very similar type structure almost to the Mr. Brunt's tweet on the US dollar Chinese yuan. So only this is slightly less extreme. But what tends to happen is three things. These folk are coming in too aggressively, and the buyers end up becoming a bit of a spent force. You eventually break some degree of a level, and then you fall down and you fizzle, and then there's the exhausted buyers relapse and you sell off. So eventually squeeze out the top. Or it becomes very low, never breaks the key interesting level that is very, very psychological here, that we're sitting at 8.4 on the BitMEX chart. I'll do the same for Binance, which is a bigger exchange and not derived, in a moment. And you never actually get there, and you just break to the downside. In other words, these guys came in too strong. There's been tactical selling on the highs across here, and eventually you capitulate. The third option occurs when you can actually get not just normal performance to a geometric continuation, which is kind of 2B, option 2B, which is what we would expect in a normal mature bull market, but not a runaway market. You can actually get what I call a mooning. In other words, these guys are actually the advanced party of a far bigger tsunami that's coming. The swell starts tucking out, and you start to get bigger and bigger swells, and then you start to see the horizon rising. And here she comes. So I'm calling potentially for a little bit of an Armageddonist kind of event. If the Koreans start to buy Bitcoin, 1%, instead of moving into dollars, as their currency goes parabolic, on the basis that that happens as they are affected by trade with China and the combination of the American trade wars, and the dollar index goes absolutely mad. We might do a run past that as well, which is mainly measured against the euro, the Swiss franc, and the pound, kind of Eurocentric measure. You will find that this could in fact go parabolic after, I would expect, making another little loop like that and going very boring. There will be a very boring phase first. You see, I'm giving you this with notice. How lucky are you? This is what we do inside our community. How lucky are you? That's a bit cheeky, isn't it? We're expecting a moderate move, nothing to break out just yet, and then a calming, and then a breakout to come. This isn't happening tomorrow or now. It's going to happen within, my guesstimation, within the next 2 weeks, you will have a triggering upside impulsive event, which will start to take out that high and later that high, and it will be quite clear cut, and it will be accompanied with volume. In other words, there will be a histogram down there saying, yep, there's some money coming in here now. But first alerts will rise, a little lag, calming, sleepy, bore you to death. It's when you're most bored and not observing that the best trade is coming, it's a low volatility moment. Low volatility moment means tight stops and expansive moves. Remember that. Okay, so back. Bitcoin is looking good. That was BitMEX. What are we going to do? Which one is this one? Close that. Let's have a look at that. That was the BitMEX one. Let's do the Kraken one. So that's Kraken. Again, I didn't like that spike. So we'll go and have a look at an exchange that didn't have that spike. That's Bitfinex, which no longer quite has the same volume, but far more natural chart in that. You can see good structure. Drift up, come on over, little interesting trading at this top side. Essentially, what's been going on in Bitcoin? Let's do this properly, guys. Come on, let's do it properly. So 8K, key level of significance, keeps being run, can't be sustained for a while. That was a head and shoulder. We called it. It made its target down there. That was your footnote. You got a small little wind up that saw overperformance pump, brought you back into that area. You traded again into 8K. Again, you were beaten. You attempted again, beaten, exhaustion, temporary, pull back for rest, regirding your loins for another attack. Getting back to the logistic vans that are waiting here with rest, food, and first aid, but they keep advancing behind, coming closer. You don't have to go so far to get rest, and the enemy forces in the trench are being worn out by each successive attack, and you are coming, and eventually they'll concede, and open territory will be there to the other side, if this is to occur as we expect it to occur. But there's going to be some more tapping out round about these levels, and then a drift off, and then boring as we bring in artillery for the charge. That's it. So 9K to fall, and if we get, once again, the overperformance potential is going to be vast. If we get the Koreans storming in as their currency devalues at the same time, and they'll all be blaming it on China and Korea and Trump and the trade war. They love to break the economy and have big drama events on conservative parties in power. We could roll in. I'm not saying this is the case, but speculative 1 to 5%, this could trigger a whole big issue. By the way, just on a little sidebar, Dow Jones over here, let's take her up to the 4-day and the 10-day. What will happen if the dollar starts appreciating? It becomes more expensive to buy equity stocks, a relative evaluation to other things. We could actually have a sell-off. Who notes that for this re-inflation, the Fed helped me get back on my bike? a trade. Yes, sirree. There's a left and there's a right. We love an upside HVF on the left shoulder, and we'll be looking for a downside one right there on the right, and you may well get a trade. We opened with a gap down over there today, and you get this. And it doesn't have to just be that target to the downside, guys. It can be the beginning of a major fall. You got a very small head and shoulder fractal on the other events. I'm not sure if it was the Dow that did it. Less so the Dow. You can see it's not quite right for that. You've got a lot of things that eventually were pointing to it. You can see a very small fractal, but it was a very big move. There was also a rising wedge into that, squeezing higher, popped out the top, exhaustion, spill, spill, spill. There we go, down. Okay, so what could happen? Loads of stuff could happen. Mr. Reset Sniper's entered the room. He's wearing his invisible hat, and he's saying, hey, indices could come off. Head and shoulders are on the indices. Dollar could get sure expensive. Chinese and the Southeast Asians could start wetting the bed. Separate note, Pakistan's in huge trouble. Expect the IMF and bailouts in no time. A little bit of an aside. And Bitcoin is going to do what? This could be proof of Bitcoin being powerful in an event of turmoil in the other currencies. It's yet to make a real defining statement about being inverse correlated. Now, here's a currency most people can buy. Currency, crypto, that can save them from the loss of value in their accounts. Mr. and Mrs. Korea, I'm talking to you right now. I could be wrong, but you could do a lot right now to save your money. It could involve dollars. It could involve crypto. It shouldn't involve too much one. Dump, dump, dump is my call. And that would mean that maybe Kyle was a little early in his getting out. And normal valuations for Peter calling, we've been up at these high levels a little bit wrong. Of course, I could be wrong, and both of them are right, and they turn back down, and it's all over in a bunch of glass. You've called big in exceptional events. Rarely do they happen. Keep it in mind. But we are still so bullish, the Bitcoin. Now, let's have a look at the Bitcoin Korean one. Yes, there is a chart. The only exchange I recognize that's been about for a bit is BitHump. Now, what you'll notice is most of this move has been driven actually by the Bitcoin recovery that started on April the 19th. I remember that date just as I remember November the 14th for the big collapse from 6.5. We were doing theory weekend on November the 11th. April the 19th, that was when the bump occurred. And then since then, you've done that. That has been mainly about Bitcoin. Most of the other currency charts look similar. However, let's drop down. Soon, this part could play out. Your dream trade is if you're in a Korean and you have a Korean exchange, or you're nearby Korea and you can get a Korean exchange, you want to be short one and long Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin will potentially overshoot if the Koreans come storming. That could see you through 10K. It could even see, I don't want to be the guy who gets into a pissing match and throws out the biggest number. I hear all the guys 1 million, 100,000. It a little bit irritates me. Maybe, in inflation, a lot of things get there. It's kind of like Dow 65,000 when it was whatever, 10,000 and all of that. But you could actually go through 10, 11, and 12 with this potential move. This is a very ascending pattern. Many will say to you, it's looking a bit expensive here. They will try. Everyone wants to sell the top and buy the bottom. And they forget that continuation is the goddamn game, guys. Continuation is the goddamn game. They'll be saying, 98, and then you got the big key round number. That is going to be, I think, 100 million. My eyes just can't do that amount of zeros next to each other. I'm going, nah. Yeah, I think it is 9. That's 9.8. So I think that is actually 10 million, or it is, it's 10 million. I've got to, zeros matter, Francis. Yeah, I should have checked that before I spoke. So here we go. Key level of resistance is going to be the round number here, and it's going to smash it. Why? Key levels. I say, and it's going to. My hypothesis and scenario cost, for which I can totally be wrong, is implying that it will be broken. And when we break key levels of significance, we break them impulsively. In other words, they lean on a chart for a while. That's why we're turning down. That's why we're turning down. But we keep coming up underneath. And it's turning down. It's very lightly convex. Now we're turning strongly up. We have a great method for all of this. We get into much more detail of it. Once again, I would expect a high slung third impulse and then a go. It might not pause very long on the one, because any weakness in the one, even if Bitcoin is not yet going parabolic, this one will start skipping and running. This is going to be a schizo for the upside. It's going to be a blow off. I don't even want to give you a number. I need to do the maths. But I'm talking about a currency that might half against the dollar. And then I'm talking about Bitcoin going through $9,000 while it was, we were gestating this idea while it was 7.5, 7.6s. I need to check where it is now. It's been creeping up, 7.8, 7.9, going through 9,000, possibly 10, and as I mentioned, even into the double digits on something that's halving, which is just like a 2x. Hello, have a 2x on this in terms of your crypto trade. So this chart is right now chart porn of note. Technical analysts get horny right in here and right now. This is my take. Of course, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm just trying to be entertaining. But yeah, that's the game. Okay, guys, that is what I've got to share with you. Weak Southeast Asian currency, Korean won, strong dollar, even stronger Bitcoin, potential opportunity for overperformance mooning. I hope to make many of you wealthy. Own your own trades if you elect to do it. Do your own research. This is not a recommendation. This is for entertainment purposes only. And thank you for watching. And I am now going to transition to showing you our amazing, where you will get once you come on board with our community and get ideas, hot ideas, just like that. I'm going to show you a demonstration of our Sniper Circle and the Key app right now, where you'll find this and other ideas. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Trade safe, trade small. Do not blow your money management. There are no Ferrari trades. Be sensible. If you want to be sustainable in this game, be smart and be cool of mind. Namaste. God bless our Korean brethren. Move fast, act fast. Bye for now. Hey guys, how are you? Welcome. I'm going to show you around the Sniper Circle. This is our portal for our lifestyle traders. This is your landing page when you come in at the Sniper Circle. In fact, there's quite a bit that's going on this page, right the way down, below the roll as well. I'm going to give you a flyby on all that's happening here. Let's start at the top left first of all. Okay, I'll zoom it in a little more and we'll get that in. In a familiar kind of structure where it's easy to get answers and quick replies, we notify you of key events, any market moves that we feel the whole community. It's a broadcast box. It's a way for us to get a lot of information from our trade leaders, our webinar handlers, from myself to the market quickly right here. And everyone is automatically subscribed to it so that they get a notification that something's going on. If we go a little further down, you see upcoming events. So we have sessions for our US timed people. We have FX and equity session. We have a Sunday session. We have a non-farm payroll day coming soon. First Fridays. All those events are listed here, so it's easy for you to find. There's a little bit about social media feeds, etc. over here. Then we come across into the groups. Now what you have here is our key groups by market category. So you'll have a newbie support, you'll have Sniper Social, we'll come to those later. Crypto General, that's in the crypto market space. We can talk about all aspects crypto. We'll go and take a look in there. Boom. So if I click on that, it'll take us through to the chats that are going on right now in and around crypto. You can see the responses, what we're looking at, what guys are interested in, how the scenarios are being cast for what might be the next trade, a little bit of feedback, etc. All going on inside this environment. Heading back, we can go from here direct to the next group, which is Equities General. You can see it on the right-hand side. If I click here, you now will find equities being discussed, etc. in a very, very similar fashion. Let's expand that so that everybody can see, shall we? And you can see it in much greater detail. Now you can click on the individual charts and they'll open up and you'll be able to see exactly what's going on. You'll be able to minimize, etc. You can even scroll through them like that as an example. So very, very flexible and easy to use. Same exists for FX and commodities. So you capture your gold discussions, your pound versus the dollar, etc. It's all happening in here. Similar type structure, discussing what's going on in the FX and commodity markets right here, right now. Okay, well, before you go any much further, when you come on board to actually being able to participate in these conversations, you need to go back to school, and we need to get you properly understanding our kind of doctrine, our method, and also the kind of language we use to discuss things. And for that, you need to go and do your courses. And courses are across the top. As you can see, there's quite a few. I'll expand that as well. In fact, we'll make it nice and big. So here we have the introduction of HVF method right here in the top left. So if I touch that one, it'll take us into that particular category. If I scroll down, let's make that a bit bigger as well. Scroll down, we'll get an example lesson somewhere. How about over here? Let's go to number 14, and let's go to the first clip over here. So this is the environment inside which you will be able to watch and participate in each one of those lessons, each one an hour, fragmented into 4 by 15 minutes. You hit play, it'll start loading, and you'll be able to interact with that video. You'll be able to leave comments. It'll be marked as complete as you do it. So it's very, very powerful way for you to get quickly through the resources that are available. Let's head back to the other courses and see what else there is there that you can learn about from us. So that was the introduction to HVF method. You'll see there's an orientation, there's the mentality psychology. We went and visited and spent 3 days in North Carolina with a specialist. Let's zoom that in a bit. A specialist in trader performance. That's right. He's not the Band-Aid variety psychologist. He's for the high performance people becoming even more high performance, specifically geared towards trading. So all the challenges you face as a trader mentality wise. So if you once again you follow through with all the lessons, you will see both the video and all the content that goes alongside with that, number of links as well for you to share. Great stuff. Important that you recognize mentality, psychology, very, very critical to your success, along with understanding and employing method. You will see other trading essentials that we do, how to use TradingView to get the best outcome, interviews with Dr. DiMartini. It's all in your courses section. Let's go to that all-important area called the setups. The setups where many of our best ideas are germinated, the incubator for potential and future trades. At the moment, it selects everything. All setups are listed here, so you can look at all markets. But say, for example, it's crypto season, it's bullish. You need to actually move through all the way through the best crypto ideas. So instead of having to scroll all the way down and see all these multitude of awesome ideas that are in all fields, you can just select the ones you want right from the top on the menu, and you can go, let's have a look at cryptos, for example. Hit the button apply, and it'll take you through to just that have been put forward in the crypto space. So once again, you can see BCH ABC is at the top, probably one of the last ones that's been discussed over here. You can see who's originated the idea. Just simply click on it. It'll take you into the idea. It'll give you an idea of the risk-reward potential on traditional entries. That'll only mean something to you once you've been trained with us. You can subscribe. You can unsubscribe if you don't want to hear about certain coins. You can mention that you're taking the trade by hitting the green button. So I'm both subscribed and taking the trade. You can go through the detail, who's originated it, and some of the chat that is specific to that particular setup. But what about the charts themselves? Let's click on one of the charts. You can see I've got it zoomed in here. Let's make it, get it back to screen size. You can see what we call the super macro, the big trend view. You can also pull it over and you can zip through each one of the time frames, trend view, pattern view, and then right through to your trigger time frame, so that you can see the whole idea as it's being expressed. You can discuss that particular setup in the chat here below, as I've already illustrated, or you can talk about crypto generally. Maybe this setup will be referenced in there too as well. Okay, so that is setups. What else have we got for you in our platform? Well, we have forums. Say you want to discuss particular topics and you want to get into great detail, kind of almost blogs, sharing covering major news feeds, talk about security coins in greater detail, specifically share news that you found out about. You would go anywhere where you can create your own forum. You'd go into the crypto corner. You would discuss ICOs, mining, all sorts of elements where you could get a whole bunch of additional information in there. The forums are right there for you. Snipers, here's all the other friends that you can see in our list. You can see their profiles. You can follow specific guys that are putting up good setups. You can unfollow people that, if you want to just keep it to a minimum, how much you want to hear. That exists right there and is easily done. What about the events? Let's have a look at the archive. This is where we have a full-blown calendar for you, which shows all forthcoming events. So this is May of 2019. I'm recording it during this month. You can see that which is gone. The recordings are hosted in the calendar. So you can just click and access the recording. You're at any time zone. We're servicing all people, all time zones, and we have webinars at different time zones. And that allows you to both attend live, where you can ask questions, and also make sure you catch up on the recordings. And you can see which sessions are coming up. By the way, if you click on a specific event, you get more of the details. You can add it to your Google Calendar or your iCalendar if you're on an iPhone. In other words, to be clear, this is both an Android and an iOS available app for you. Excellent. So that is a little bit about the events. What about announcements? This is where we talk about a whole bunch of key developments. For example, how not to miss any aspects that are going on in the sniper community, how guys are gaining rank, and how it makes it more valuable as a member to us, which is awesome for you. And also going mobile. On that, in fact, point, I should revert to our phone and actually show you and talk you through the actual mobile app as well. You can see also the other groups and announcements that are in there. But without further ado, let's go mobile. So here comes the phone, and I'm switching it on, and I am now accessing it, and we are going to talk about our mobile. So I'm hitting the record button, and I'm recording screen here now on the mobile, and I'm showing you there's a typical expression of a phone with the apps. I'm opening the app by hitting the sniper circle. I'm already logged in. You can see I am in chats. So if I go there and I just touch the button chats, I can see all the chats with notifications in here. It's pretty awesome. I'm really on the ball, so most of my notifications I've gone and seen. But you can see since I've been recording, there's already 2 new ones in FX and commodities, Bitcoin, USD Lumen. There's stuff going on. So time to catch up with what the guys are saying. So I click on it, and once again, that familiar, easy to use, straight from the get-go, understandable, utilizable option is there. I'm being a naughty boy now, and I'm going to hit in a chart, but I'm going to go into landscape mode. So I'm hoping that it'll open in landscape mode. But there we go. We got the landscape mode, and that is the trade idea that is being shown. You can zoom, you can see it in greater detail. Close it there, and you can go check the setups. Here's setups, and once again, you can click on the individual charts, go right to the top, subscribe, choose to take it if you wish by hitting the take button, and you'll be one of those that take. What are we looking at? We're looking at an equity, PSG, and so it goes. Once again, let's get to that pattern chart and have a little look. Click on the pattern chart. I can zoom in and see what the risk reward that's been illustrated very nicely is, why the structure is potentially good or interesting. I can leave comments in the chats on that, so you can simply hit the chat and type as you would in any WhatsApp discussion. Okay, that's a little bit about our app for you, and I hope that's interesting, and I look forward to seeing you utilizing both our desktop version and our app at some point in the future, should you elect to come on board. I'm Francis Hunt, the Crypto Sniper, the Market Sniper, and the Reset Sniper. Catch you later. Bye.